Now, the battle over the Kogi and Bayelsa States governorship elections is far from over. The governorship candidate of the Social Democratic Party, SDP, in Kogi State, Murtala Ajaka, has rejected the verdict of the State Governorship Election Petitions Tribunal, which dismissed his petition against Governor Usman Ododo for lack of merit. Ajaka, who described the verdict as a temporary setback and the beginning of a long road to freedom, vowed to pursue the case to the Supreme Court. And this is coming despite Governor Ododo's appeal to opponents to join him in moving the state forward. Also in Bayelsa State, the governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Timipre Sylva, rejected the tribunal's verdict, which dismissed his petition against Governor Douye Diri. BKO, let me bring your thoughts on this. Welcome back, although this is my first time of having you here after the week-long break. So with this situation in Kogi and Bayelsa States, what do you make of the unfolding developments, even as the two parties have rejected the results of the courts, or the verdicts of the courts?
Yeah, I expected it. At this stage, you do not expect Ajaka, who has gone to court, has gone to the tribunal to present and validate his position that there was so much overvoting in the election. You do not expect that after losing at the State Election Petitions Tribunal, you will simply give up. And we saw trends after the general election of 2023. The tribunals began to sit in the states. In some cases, you win. At the state tribunal, you lose at appeal. In some cases, you win at state tribunal. I mean, in some cases, you lose at state tribunal, lose at the appeals tribunal, and then win at the Supreme Court. We saw what happened with Kano, for example. Many of us had given up that the Kano case was
long and forgotten.
Yes, because how do you prove, for example, that ballots that were not stamped were valid? It is the stamp on those ballots that validate them. And when they deducted, when the lower tribunal deducted those ballots that were not stamped, APC overtook NNPP. The trend continued at the appeals tribunal. But at the level of Supreme Court, the Supreme Court ruled that Abba Kabir Yusuf was the winner of the election, in spite of the fact that a good number of those votes were not stamped, So before Ajaka can be expected to accept defeat, it must be after the Supreme Court has ruled. There are even many that the Supreme Court will rule, they will say, okay, this is the judgment of human beings. There is a judgment in heaven that they are waiting for that one. We see these things happen. So for me, I'm not surprised. The same thing with Sylva. You don't expect them to, at this stage, say, oh, they accept. It's not everyone who accepts defeat easily. In the case of Dino Melai, for example, he said he would not even have anything to do with tribunals. So he gave up very early. Instead of spending money, he said, no, I'm not going to try to contest this the verdict of this election at the tribunal. He stuck to his gun. That's what he's doing. He has his own reason. Not that he felt the election was perfect. We've not reached that point when we can do elections and Nigeria will say, yes, we can hold up this election as a perfect one. No, we've not reached that point. So our elections will continue to show all of those telltale signs of imperfection, of vote rigging, and the rest. Now it is for you to prove to the judges that the elections were conducted in grave violation of the 2022 Electoral Act. If the judges are convinced that the election was conducted in substantial non-compliance with the Electoral Act 2022, then the judges can then decide that, okay, we're ordering a fresh election, especially in the areas concerned. But as I said, it's up to those judges to say, okay, this is our verdict. Justice Dobrini Kudu is convinced that Ajaka did not win the election, that Ododo was the rightful winner of the election, that Ododo was properly elected and declared winner of that election. That's the way it is for now. Nobody knows what will happen at the level of the appeals tribunal. Nobody knows what will happen at the Supreme Court. So, for me, I do not see anything wrong in what Ajaka has done. He's giving himself another chance. Every politician is by nature very optimistic. So he's thinking that, okay, maybe when I get to the appeals tribunal, I may get a different verdict. The Supreme Court is still there. As long as all of those channels for redress have not been exhausted, I believe that neither Sylva nor Ajaka would say, okay, we give up at this time, we are prepared to work with you. Ododo saying that they should come and work for him at this stage, these ones won't listen. They want to exhaust all the avenues for redress. It is after that, I think, that they can then say, okay, let's see what happens. They are from the same party. They are brothers, the same state. So the possibility of coming together is there. Never rule anything out with politicians. They can still find a way to come together and work
as a team.
As a team, because Ajaka was an ESCO member, was in the NWC of APC. No one can say at this stage that he cannot come back to his party. So, but I believe that it's premature to expect that having lost the first phase, that he will simply give up and say, okay, no. And he has said it that this is just a temporary setback. Whether
to freedom,
the setback will be sustained at the appeals tribunal or the Supreme Court, only time will tell. But for now, Ododo is basking in victory. As you can see, his supporters are extremely happy. I saw the large crowd, and this is the way we roll in Nigerian politics.
Indeed, the way we roll in Nigerian politics. For Olabisi, looking at this issue, I think we discussed this matter yesterday with Paul Dada and GKB, and they were of the opinion that, he who alleges, according to the courts, must prove. So if you didn't get your facts right in the beginning, why are you hopeful for anything that might come out of it? Although BK who has said, he has opportunity to exhaust all avenues until he gets, until he's satisfied. Do you think perhaps these petitioners, they haven't done their homeworks very well? Whenever they come to courts, they're looking for redress. Do you think they need to do so much more in terms of, ensure that all their cases or all that they want to talk about or what they want the courts to, to look into should be, the onus lies on them generally?
Yeah, it does. The onus lies on them generally. However, the verdict of the court is beyond them. Because you can think that you have a strong case, but the court is not going to look at your case in isolation. It's going to look at things comprehensively. So even when you have your own case, it depends on how overwhelming that case is that will determine how the judgment will go. For example, in the case of the Kogi State now, he even accepted that the court accepted that there were levels of overvoting in certain areas. However, that acceptance wasn't enough for the court to nullify the election of the governor. So, in as much as it is expected of the petitioner to have enough facts and evidence to prove their case, because the onus really is on them to prove that whatever they are saying, the court should agree with them. The court reserves the right based on its own perception of the overall situation to give a verdict. And that is what will continue to happen. So yours is to come to court, present your case. It is for the court to issue a verdict. Yes, as BKO said, it is possible that the lower courts may ignore some facts. And if you go to the appeal courts, those facts could be considered by the judges at that level. And it is also possible that it could be the Supreme Court that will look at the overall evidence and say, oh, this is the judgment.
Right.
But the most important thing is that he who alleges
must prove.
Must prove.